right, what is going on, everybody? How are we doing? Maverick Mike here. Sorry for showing up a little late, 10 minutes into the day. We did already trade two trades, and I was a lot really zoned into those trades this morning, and I was actually zoned into the QQQ and SPY that were gapping down to start the day. So I forgot to jump right into the Tag a Bag Tuesday live stream. I'm sorry about that. But every Tuesday, we're here live at 9:15 a.m. Eastern going over possible wins. But with the QQQ gapping down and the SPY gapping down, I was actually more worried about getting out of the position that I had overnight. So sorry for showing up a little late, but we did. The Mavericks team was successfully able to get out of this stock. It was one day to the next. We bought it here at 305. We sold it up here at 312. It hit 3.2 at one point. I was expecting 3.3. That was like the sell I was looking for. But with the ugly markets, I just decided to get out. So that was one of them. And then the other one was a very light volume OTC stock that just had a small gap up. It had news yesterday, very small fill, ugly fill, but luckily it gapped up this morning. Both of those were the only ones we were looking at overnight. And a lot of people don't know about these stocks because they're OTC penny stocks, and a lot of people don't trade OTC penny stocks. But the beauty about a downward trending market or a sideward trending market is when the QQQ, SPY, and Dow are all falling, you could still sometimes find yourself a needle in the haystack, and that would be sometimes with these OTCs. So it's worth a try. If this one came out with news this morning or something else or a little better volume, I think we would have got the push. You could see the volume was pretty good yesterday, and it's very light today. So nothing really coming in. But I would still watch the CYDY for later this week to break back above 31 and then or 32, and then 35 is that next big spot. But small win, couple hundred. It was like 100. We made like $200 this morning. Nothing too big, but it's still green in the ugly market, and that's the beauty of it. Now what I'm trying to do is scan the field and look for potential for either this morning, which I don't love this morning with the overall markets. We just talked about how I hate this morning. So I'm not the biggest fan of the QQQ and SPY right now. So I think what I'm going to do here is we're going to look for possibilities for this afternoon setup. If you are a trader with the Mavericks, or if you don't know my style of trading, I love to buy late in the day, technically around 2:30 to 4 p.m. Eastern. And then I love to sell that next morning at 9:30, or if it's pre-market, 7:30 till right around 10 a.m. Eastern. So if you think about it, you can actually be in the stock market for only a couple minutes and still profit. A good example was CYDY. I was actually only in that stock for a total of 20-something minutes, and I still was able to make $100-something because I bought this really late in the day as it created good support. I bought it right there, and then we sell it up here. So I was only in it for, bought it right here, sold it here in the first minute, 45 minutes of the day. 45 minutes of the day. And now it looks like the volume's trying to reclaim itself and bounce. So we'll keep an eye, but those are light volume plays, and I'm not too interested in them if the markets are doing what they're doing still. So let's go over some other things that are opportunities. I actually found two big runners today that I think are really nice that are going to line up for later this week. And we have CANF as one of them. It has news this morning. It's got a pretty big green day, up 60% on the day with news. Usually for me, I don't love taking advantage of the first day, but I always am creating a watch list for my big runners because usually I take advantage of either the second or third day on these. So everybody usually says, oh, it's impossible to catch that. The stock's just downtrending. How do you catch that? You're right. It is almost impossible to catch something like that. But how do we take advantage of it now? That's what we're going to try to do. So CANF, we watch this, we let it settle. Tomorrow, we'll possibly be using 50 cents as cut if I like to buy it tomorrow, or the next day if it keeps holding 50 cents for that next leg up. So we have two days that I think that this stock could make a potential move, and I'll be watching it until the close of this week. And I'm going to put an alert down at 50 cents. So as long as I don't got an alert, I know CANF still hasn't cracked and it's still alive. And I'll make sure to put an alert at highs as well. So I like to put alerts. I actually maxed out of alerts today. So I had to go back and delete some alerts. I didn't even know that you could max out of alerts till a couple months ago when I just started to put tons of alerts in. So I'm a big alerts guy because you got to watch different things throughout the day. So this one, CanF and OLMA. Let me put both my alerts there. I'll put one at 20 here, and then I'll put one up at 25. But those are the two big runners so far that I'm watching for potential lining up. And if you're wondering what I'm looking for in these, let me just show you an example. CYPH, OLMA was halted. It just got halted. Was a great example. It was a stock that turned into a Bitcoin treasury stock. They actually loaded up on Zcash, ZEC. This is like the new huge Bitcoin out of nowhere. It just started. It spiked close to $1,000. It's ZEC. And that also is Zcash, the stock we've been trying to short for a while, ZCSH. Zcash is now like the top 12th ranked crypto out of nowhere. So that's why it was able to get this huge run from 4 all the way to 55 in the OTC grayscale market. But then we had a listed stock, and I would highly recommend you to pay attention to a lot of these Bitcoin stocks that are becoming treasuries. So there's a lot of things that are happening recently where Bitcoin stocks are creating an offering, which an offering is bad because they're selling shares to the market. But then they're reversing it and they're putting all their offering money into a Bitcoin, this company being Zcash. Some companies are doing Ethereum. Some companies are doing a Solana. So it's important to go down your Bitcoin list and find which listed stocks are treasuries to which coin. Because sometimes you can actually go search the coin, on Coinbase or wherever you want to look at it, Zcash, it's approximately at 708. So if that's going up, usually the Zcash stuff will go up. Oh, it's down. What's going on here? Let's get some real-time data. Hold on. Since we're on live here, it's taking a little bit of time to load. But we're loading here. We're there. And once again, I do apologize. I will be here at 9:15 on Tuesdays usually, but today we're selling a stock while the markets were coming down, and I had to make sure I was green, so I was a little more focused on that. But if they come trade with me in the stocks room in the Simpler Trading web, actually a $7 trial for a monthly trial right now. So if you want to come check us out, we'd love to have you. But here is Zcash. I don't know what happened back then, but it just exploded starting on 9/19 when it was actually, let me put these two stocks side by side with each other so we can actually look at them. So I'll put Grayscale Zcash right next to it's gapping down today, and it makes sense because we're gapping down. But if I zoom out to the 1 year chart, look at that. This run happened together. Let me zoom into 1 month. It's been a 2-month run, so I should look a little longer. This works. So since October 20th, which where's October 20th here? Oh, this makes complete sense. So this is $200. This is $20. It looks like we're almost in the same segment too. Look at that. We're at 56. Oh, no, we're not. 56. Now we're at 36. So no. But you can see the charts do follow each other. I mean, Zcash got that gap, this gap. Zcash got the gap. It pushed up again, but it never came back to 55 because 55 is crazy. I don't know how it squeezed that much. We were actually shorting the stock at 52.50 on this day. And then we covered it down here at 45. But wow, it could have really worked out. It collapsed to 25. Now it's just leveling out. But why we even brought up Zcash, I went on a little tantrum and faded off to the side, a little stock market tantrum, was because this is what I'm looking for in OLMA and CANF. We have a huge day out of nowhere, and the news caused a huge day. Same thing with CanF and OLMA. News causes usually a big spike. Sometimes they'll spike out of nowhere, but for the most part, it's going to be some sort of news article or something that's going to get it going. Sector momentum or news are the top two things that are going to bring you rapid profit to your account. So when you're looking to grow your account, a lot of people have asked me, where was that time that you broke through? That's like the biggest question, I feel like. When was the time that you broke through and started to understand everything? And there wasn't really ever a time, I would say. But what I would say, oh, hold on, let me pull that back up. there wasn't really ever a time, but what I would say is that if you do stay in the game long enough, if you can stay in this game long, not lose, meaning not give up your account. So if you can stay in this thing and ride through the hardship of the battle of the first couple of years, as long as you stay in the regular season, what I like to call it, you win, lose, win, lose, win, lose, win, lose. But hopefully your account's slowly trickling up. So nothing too special. I wouldn't expect a jackpot overnight. Then you run into something like this. It's either going to be sector momentum, which is most likely going to be the thing that gets you going, or news. So I didn't really know what exactly it was to get me over that limit. But then when I look back, I was like, oh, it makes sense. I ran into sector momentum, which was cannabis sector. I turned my $500 into now $30,000, but even $500 back here into $10,000. And that gives you cushion. And not only cushion, it starts to give you confidence. And that confidence is more important than the cushion. Because in trading, mentality is just as important as making money. I mean, money management is great, but if you don't know how to manage your brain, you're going to leave and you're going to quit very, very, very. I mean, it might take a year, it might take 2, it might take 3, but you're going to quit. So you got to stay disciplined day in and day out, and staying level-headed. What helps me stay level-headed is looking back at things like this and also charting your trades every single day. And I'm actually right about to cross that 500K spot in profits, a number that I never thought I would ever get to when I first started trading. When my account was down at $500, I never thought I would ever be at that number, 500K. Now, obviously, I'm shooting for $1 million once I get over 500K, but it's slow and steady, and it's a compounding effect. And a big compounding thing to trading, a good example is one of my great trading friends, Strati. Shout out Strati. We started trading together all the way back here when we started hanging out together. And he actually just recently crossed over 500K right here. And then he just crossed over $1 million now. So it took him like 5 years to get to that 500K. And then it took him 10 months to get to the million after that. So things do pick up. Compounding is a real thing. But you got to stay in the regular season long enough. And you got to battle. And if you battle long enough, you're going to hit that one spurt that's going to give you that confidence. And as long as that spurt doesn't come all the way back down and you go back negative, you should be able to get that education and start hopefully growing from there. And that's usually what was the click. Because everybody always asks, what was the click when you finally started to understand things? And I never really know what that click was. But now when I've got asked it enough times and I look back at my chart, it's not a day-to-day. It's not a day thing. But it can happen in one day, and that's the beauty of the market. You need to show up every day. You're 1 day away from freedom. So you're 1 day away from freedom is the best example, I would say. And you can't get freedom without being here long enough, battling. And once you go through those battles, you'll be good to go. It looks like somebody wrote something in the comment section. I'm not going to open that up, but there's a link. Yeah, Strati. I mean, Johnny got to see Strati. So Johnny's actually been trading with me for that long as well. My boy Johnny. And it takes everybody different times. So don't ever pressure yourself. But the beauty is never giving up. And, the beauty of never giving up is very important. Because like I said, you're 1 day away from freedom or 1 week away from freedom. That's usually all it takes. But Strati, yes, he has done stuff that is absolutely unreal in the trading game, and I love the kid, and definitely great to call him one of my good friends now. So that's another great thing about trading is you do create, not just make money, you create lifelong friends, and that kid's probably going to be coming to my wedding. So really cool stuff, and I love the bond that we've been able to create, and I love that I'm actually now motivated by him. He was motivated by me at one point. He jumped over me in profit. Now I'm motivated by him, and that's what a friendly competition is about, guys. We're not here to fight each other. He's not here bragging about his cash. I'm not here pocket watching him, but we're also just in it together just to better ourselves. And that's really what this community here that I created in the Stock Mavericks is all about. It's really just about trying to grow and better each other in this community day in and day out. And I think we've done a pretty good job so far. It's only been 1 year with Simpler. We're officially at 1 year in the new chat room. So we've got that 1 year. I'm actually going to do some stats. I'm going to break down some stats, my 1 year stats, and we'll see exactly how everything went. But my account started with $7,500 when I started with Simpler. And I think we're close to like 70K, 80K in profits, but I'll have to go back and really check that out. But nice work so far with the Simpler team and what we've been able to do. Now, let's see what we got this year. And like Strati did, let's compound it. Let's just keep compounding it. Let's make this year special coming up. Getting back into Zcash, though, that was a little motivational speech I gave you guys this morning. Getting back into Zcash, though, CYPH is a Zcash company. They bought a whole bunch of Zcash at the price of 602. So think about it. They are under now. And that's another thing you want to put into perspective. If they bought all this Zcash, literally $29,000, so $30,000 at 602, how much money is that? Jesus. $602 times 30,000, $18 million. They just bought $18 million of Zcash. So this is official treasury. And since Zcash continued to spike, this got that squeeze. So it was the third Green Day surge, but not only the third Green Day surge, it was the fact that, let's look at the day, 11/13. And look what's happening on 11/13 to 11/14. A big spike. So there's outside perspective or outside things that usually help with sector momentum or news stocks. And this was both. Well, not really, because Bitcoin wasn't sector momentum, but Zcash was. So it was kind of a sector momentum play in Zcash, and it was a news play. So I regret not playing this for sure. I messed up there, but that was a Friday play. I was a lot more defense. The past 5 days, I've really had my defensive guard up because the overall markets have been so ugly. I always like to show this picture as my defense picture. And that's really how I've been trading the past 5 days. Always with the defensive guard up, but ready to attack just like we did with CYDY real quickly. All right, so now let's go down the field and let's see what else we got for this morning. So that's what we're going to do this morning. We're going to try to find winners since we've already got a little bit of bag in the a little bit of cash, a little bit of green. No better way to start an ugly, ugly market day than green. So I'm fine with that. But let's see what else we got. Let me bring this back down. And if you want to follow me, definitely go follow me on social media. I mean, on Profitly under Stock Snipers. You can literally watch every one of my trades, or you can literally follow along every single one of my trades if you want to come check me out in the Stock Mavericks room in the Simpler Trading website. All right. So let's get into some scans. Let's get into some scans. One second. All right. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to I'll go through my watch list that I have already set up. I've done my morning watch list already. Every single morning, I always like to start my community off with a morning watch list. And I'll go into those stocks really quickly. But it was LAES and SON were the two morning watchers. We had CYDY, and then it's LAES and SOUN. So LAES, I'm looking for it to come down a little more. It looks like $4 it stopped, but I still want it to come closer to 360. So I need more of a drop. I'm going to put an alert here, so hopefully we get that drop. And that's really what I'm rooting for. It does have news this morning, which usually helps it out, LAES. So be aware, if it does hold 4 and create a bounce green day, there's also a chance that I go after it. I've been waiting for this stock for a while. It's fallen from 740 to 4, but it's also fallen with the quantum sector. And if you open up the quantum sector, the two big runners, QBTS and RGTI, have both fallen from that crazy squeeze they've gotten. So usually these are the leaders and the other ones follow. But LAES does have news, so maybe this will help it out a little bit. I'm still rooting for one more drop day down to this level. And then the other one on the morning watch list was SOUN, and this one also didn't get more of a push. But you can see how far, from 22 to 11, it got cut in half, 50% drop in 1 month. How wild is that? So when will we bounce? I think we're going to bounce very soon. I want it to be 10, but at this point, I'm not going to just jump in a day. Like, I'm not guessing it because you can see what's happening. So where I'll jump in is usually a key level. So both of those stocks have key levels. Those are the levels I try to jump in right around 10. Or if we do create a real first green day. And an LAES would be 360, or if we come back to 425 and we create support. So there's two opportunities always on the downtrending days, either for potential first bounce green day, or if we really do come down to those key spots, that's probably a spot I will test it out. Other than that, though, what else do we got? Let me start going down the field and see the other weekly, the other watchers. So I always like to go down my field. Let's see what else we have. LAES is actually falling below 4 perfectly. Perfect morning spike and drop. This is what you want. So every stock, I would say that downtrends, usually what I do is I give it 5 minutes. After 5 minutes, I mark the high of day. If it doesn't come back above that high of day, it's still downtrending. And if I zoom out of this is how I notice my downtrends, at least personally me. Everybody's different, but a lot of people, I've learned this from other people too. Usually it takes one spike in the morning or, the first 5 minutes of the day, which this are 15-minute candles. So let's get a little more in detail here. All right, so here's an example. First 5 minutes, you get a spike. If it doesn't come back above that, the momentum hasn't shifted yet. Here, first 5 minutes, spike to 470, momentum doesn't come back, it ain't happening. So I actually could X out those alerts because that's what we were looking for then. In this instance, it looked pretty decent at the morning, but so the first 5 minutes, it does break out. So if you did play that breakout, you could have potentially got it, but it rolled on you and you would have had a cut. Either way, it's another example of it not coming back to highs. Another one, got a mini spike, never came back to highs. Another one. So it seems like this tends to do this every morning. Another one. So every day I'm zooming out. I'm at $6 now. We are downtrending and we've hit another day. So that's usually my key levels when it comes to downtrending stocks and trying to create that momentum shift. There's two things that I love to watch. It's the red to green move, the high day break from the day before, or we come down to support levels like 360 and we either fall below that spot and reclaim it, and that's where I buy it, or we hold it and we bounce it, and that's where I look to buy it. But this is more of a scan. We're scanning fields right now. And this stock actually not only comes from the morning watch list, it comes from the weekly watch list. And that weekly watch list started off with quantum stocks, and then it gets into other movers. But both SOUN and LAES are on there. And I'm really just patiently waiting for the Bitcoin or the quantum bounce. The weekly watch list is actually released every single Monday at 8:15 a.m. Eastern, if you're interested. BTQ is another one that I've been watching. It's leveling out now right where it delisted or it uplisted. So this stock went from an OTC stock, which used to be BTQQF, and then it uplisted to BTQ. And when it broke out of that 830 spot, watch what happened, because that's still a breakout. So that 830, this was a perfect breakout play. It broke out here and it broke out of the actual chart. The next day, it squeezes from 9 all the way to 13. It actually gaps up to from 9 to 11, and that's all you really can ask for. And then that next day, it keeps going to 16. But the power of the breakout just shows you the strength of what happens when you're playing a quantum stock in a hot sector, which RGTI was so hot, and so was QBTS. Thing was squeezing from 30 to 50, that you'll find other runners like BTQ, like LAES, and like QSI that are usually my favorite ones to play when these ones fall apart. So I got to delete some of these alerts because I got to clear out my alerts, but this one's starting to level out too, QSI. Either way, I don't think today's the day to really jump the gun on these quantum stocks. Truly don't. I think we have one more day, to tell you the truth. And usually, in my opinion, a lot of these things that eventually turn around, they get a big fallout. So meaning they will gap down big tomorrow. And usually that's what causes the eventual turnaround. So hopefully LAES and all those gap down to like 360. This gaps to 360 tomorrow. SOUN down to 10. Then I will really be in business tomorrow morning. And that's where patience could pay. Say I decide not to buy anything overnight, which a lot of people out there, it's very unfortunate. They want to buy every single day. And I always say the taxi cab analogy, which I already talked about earlier. But if you are a taxi cab driver and you work every day of your life to make $200, it's going to take you like 5 hours on Monday to Thursday. But on Friday, it's only going to take you 1 hour. So the smart person will just show up on Friday and get to work all day and never come back all week. It's the same perspective with the stock market. Today is a day that if you're going to play around, you probably should be looking for a little bit, not a lot. Because if you look for a lot, you're probably going to lose. But it almost sometimes is better to just walk away and stay patient for a day. Let these things settle as we see there's key levels that we want these certain stocks to come to. And then when they do, we show up on that Friday when you could make $200 a day and you keep striking. I call it the taxi cab analogy. But LAES actually bounced reclaimed 4. So I'm going to put an alert at 4 and let's see if it holds 4. This will be a key spot for it today that we can watch. And if it does break back above 430 and get some support or create some support up here, then there's a chance that I do go after it overnight. So we'll see. The goal for me is always buy late in the day, sell early in the morning. Or I have about 80% is afternoon buys, 20% is morning buys. So I still do morning plays, but it's not necessarily every single day. And especially with these ugly, ugly markets. All right, zooming back out. Let's see what else we got, though. I'm going to go through my scanners now, and I'm going to see if there's anything moving. It looks like the QQQ and SPY just got a huge drop. That's very ugly there, and it's trying to recover. The Dow Jones is on 4 straight red days, which usually I always say 3 straight red days, and you should start looking for a possible bounce. And we're on 4 now in the Dow. So that's something to pay attention to as well. We just made new lows there. But we're also coming down to support levels. I mean, I think the market needed to cool off a little bit, so I'm actually fine with this because usually what happens in a hot market, if we do get this cool off and then we come back to highs or we break back out, it's just going to make a lot of these plays that we're going over right now juicier and juicier and juicier for the next opportunity. And that's what we're going to look for. So I'm going to do a nice little 10-minute scan before we close it out. So we'll do 10 minutes left here. We'll scan through my actual watch list. We'll see if we can start writing stuff down on my Post-it notes and find some winners potentially for later or maybe for later this week. So the 2 that we have is OLMA and CANF, at least to watch for later this week. Let me keep going down my list, and I'm going to see if I can find anything else that also starts to look pretty decent. Looks like VRA is a first green day. SGBX, if anybody caught this yesterday, this was a beauty. They got a huge squeeze late day after holding 260 all day. This is when we were watching yesterday. It squeezed all the way to 360. So that's beautiful, but it's coming back down. So I'm going to take it off the chart. Some new ones we're looking at. VRA has got a spike this morning. Technically, multi-month breakout right here. So let's see if we can get back above that spot, which it's right at right now. And no news or anything, so just a spike. Interesting. Let me go down the list and see if I have anything else that's lining up. Usually when I go down my list and I don't see too much stuff that's up 10%, it's not a good sign for the market. And there's not too much right now. Or for the day, not the market, for the day. The market doesn't care about us. HubC is a war drone stock. It's like an Israeli drone stock. Stuff is still going on in Israel, unfortunately. So I'll keep an eye on HubC. I'll keep it pulled up. But nothing too special that I'm jumping the gun on this morning. Let me keep going down the list. It looks like Bitcoin stock is one of the few Bitcoin stocks up this morning. Look at that drop from $2 all the way back to 80 cents. It came out with earnings this morning, so that's usually a positive. If we're green and we came out with earnings, let's see, it spiked all the way up to 94. Maybe this could be a first green day later. We'll see. But you are kind of betting on Bitcoin when it comes to that. But I'll keep it pulled up. So what I'm doing now is I'm just pulling up stocks and I'm writing them down on my Post-it notes. I'm a big Post-it note guy. I also will send it out into my group chat of just the stuff that I'm looking for. And why I like to look at this stuff and eye it down is because if they do hold till later, then they have a chance to actually make us money. So this morning, usually I'm not going to go after it right away, but say this stock is holding or these stocks are holding till later, it gives you more of a chance to say, all right, this is actually starting to look pretty interesting. Maybe I should play this. So I'm going to just start writing them down on here. There really isn't too much, to tell you the truth. But let's keep scanning. I'll stay for about 8 more minutes this morning. But usually a lot of my action comes late in the day. So if this is something that you think you like I said, come check us out in the Mavericks room. And we'll be tagging some bags together. All right, I went through the master watch list. There wasn't too much. Now I'm going to go through the this is no volume at all. LFS, it just started out of nowhere, but it got halted right away. But that's a former runner. I'll put it right there. Also, CMCT is a former runner. Weird movement there. This Grayscale HZen keeps creeping up, even though Zcash is down today. AREC is a metal stock trying to create a first green day. Actually, AREC has earnings after the bell. So I don't like to bet on earnings. So I'm not going to try to play that one. So that one would come instantly off of my list. ABAT, this is actually one that I've had on the weekly watches for a first green day. It's up 5%. Look how far it's dropped from 1140. And now it's just sitting in this range. I usually like a 10% plus green day. And usually when it does create a 10% green day, it follows up for the most part. I've seen this, played this stock since 2018. This used to be ABML. It used to be an OTC stock. I don't know if anybody remembers that one. But ABML, I made tons of money off of that. Same with ABAT. So maybe this one lines up. I'll actually keep this pulled up too. What else do we got? CYDY is still sitting in the same spot. So even if we didn't sell it, you'd be in the same exact situation. So I was more than fine with, clearing out. All right, I got 2 more watch lists I'm going to go down, and then we'll finish it out here. OGI, cannabis stock creating a small first green day. Okay. I mean, this is known to follow up. There's no news or anything, so I don't really know why, because cannabis has been downtrending. Look at MSOS. Jeez. Usually this is the ETF I watch for OTC cannabis and cannabis stocks. If this bounces, they usually bounce, but this thing has gone under, so I can exit all these alerts out. But this is a sector, too, that I started my whole career with when I was just talking about my profit lead. But we'll keep an eye on it. So I don't know why OGI would be up, but OGI is a cannabis stock too. But this one's OGI is listed and MSOS more follows the OTC stocks. Anything else that we have on there? All right, I'll do my one last scan here. And if you guys have any tickers or questions, please bring them up. Let me know the deal. So let me just get down this last list. If there's something here, I'll let you know. I'm scanning down it right now. And then what I'll do is I'll show you, I don't really have much on my Post-it note. Yesterday we had like 20 stocks that we were watching. Today is only like 3 or 4. So it just shows you the example of the slower day. And, markets are still red. The QQQ and SPY are coming back to test lows. So you got to be careful. I don't know what this one is. ADAPY. It's an ADR that's been moving for a while now, but it's breaking out. Should have noticed it yesterday. Nice little wake up breakout play there. Came up out of nowhere. But it's a brand new one. And it technically is a breakout. ADAPY. All right. So a good example to show you how long I've been trading stocks for. Look at where these alerts are. There's an alert all the way up by $1. This stock hasn't been at $1 in forever. I got to clean this up. X. So that's why my alerts are maxed out, because I've never really cleaned up my alerts. This stock, I don't know what's going on. And if anybody ever wants to clean this up, I'll show you that too this morning in our last couple of minutes here. This is not a real wick. It didn't really go to 80. It probably at the most went to like 9 cents or 10 cents. So if you press correct this bar, you'll see all of them there. I want you to do everything exactly the same. Besides the 81, change it to 10. So we just changed that to 10. It's pretty crazy. You can actually skew a chart here. You can actually be a Picasso. Make your own chart if you really want to. All right. Boom. And there we go. Once you press apply, look at that. Looks like a regular chart all of a sudden. That chart looked so ugly before that. So right click, press correct this bar. And that's how you do it. You right click, correct this bar. And that's how you do it. So if you didn't take anything or if you didn't profit today, hopefully you learned a little something. That's always the goal with me on our Tag a Bag Tuesdays. But there isn't really much else out there. I'm finishing off my scans now. Let me just see. It doesn't seem like there's too much out there. So that's pretty much where we're going to end this off, guys. I mean, LAES is going to be a good watcher into midday, but honestly, today really might be a day I don't do anything, and we haven't done that in a little bit. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Patience does pay in times like these, and I honestly am rooting for one more red day. So I kind of want them to come down just one more time, and then tomorrow be ready to strike. But I'll be in the Mavericks Mastery Room in the Simpler Trading website right around 2:45 p.m. Eastern later on. So hopefully maybe we find another winner later on. But it does seem like a slower day. So this is a great day to really work on yourself inside the markets, meaning track your trades, create watch list, create sector watch list. And then outside the markets, take a run, go to the gym, eat healthy, meditate. All those things are possibilities to better yourself instead of just sitting around and forcing trades in a time that you probably shouldn't. And that's just going to drive you crazy. I'm going to leave this webinar off where I started it, and that's with a soothing song because we all need to chill out today. It's going to be okay. Markets are going to spike again, and we are going to make a lot of money soon. But for now, let's stay patient and let's enjoy it. Much love, everybody. I enjoyed this morning with you guys, and I will see you all this afternoon at 2:45. Much love, and go enjoy yourself midday. Be the best version of you. Peace. Somewhere over the rainbow.